Hello, dear viewers, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are delving into a story of immense consequence, one that pits a former senior member of the British royal family against the formidable legal and political apparatus of the United States Congress. We are, of course, discussing the intensifying legal quagmire surrounding Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and the relentless growing pressure for him to finally appear before US officials investigating the heinous crimes of the late convicted sex offender, Jeffrey Epstein. This narrative is not simply about legal maneuvering, it is about accountability, justice for survivors, and the complex interplay between royal privilege and American legislative power. The walls, it seems, are closing in, with powerful US lawmakers now openly issuing stark warnings and demanding transparency. The former Duke, stripped of his major royal roles and military affiliations, is being urged, in fact publicly commanded, to step into the light and definitively prove his innocence by providing sworn testimony to a highly influential US Congressional committee. Before we fully immerse ourselves in the details of this extraordinary international demand, please take a moment to like this video if you find this information valuable and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us continue bringing you these crucial, in-depth updates. The primary source of this heightened pressure stems directly from the members of the US House Oversight Committee. This committee, known for its extensive power to investigate government operations and matters of public interest, has collectively called for the former prince to reveal the full extent of his knowledge concerning the late, disgraced financier and convicted trafficker, Jeffrey Epstein, and the full scope of the reprehensible crimes that were committed over many years. One of the most vocal and pointed demands has come from Democrat Representative Raja Krishnamurthy. Speaking candidly to the esteemed program, BBC Newsnight, Representative Krishnamurthy left absolutely no room for ambiguity regarding his intentions and the severity of the situation. He unequivocally stated his desire for Andrew to provide evidence before Congress, going so far as to emphasize the ultimate legal tool at their disposal. "I would go so far as to subpoena him." This statement is profoundly significant. A congressional subpoena is not a mere invitation. It is a legal imperative, a formal order compelling a person to produce evidence or appear for testimony. The fact that a sitting member of the House Oversight Committee is publicly discussing the necessity of employing such a potent legal instrument against a figure of Andrew's status underscores the seriousness of the US inquiry and the perceived relevance of his testimony. Representative Krishnamurthy did not stop there. He proceeded to map out the potential next steps should Andrew choose to maintain his silence and refuse to appear voluntarily before the US officials. He acknowledged the inherent difficulties in enforcing such a command across international borders, explaining the legal complexities that arise when dealing with someone residing on foreign soil. Now, enforcing the subpoenas is not easy for somebody who's on foreign soil, he conceded. However, the congressman immediately followed this caveat with a potent clarification, outlining the precise conditions under which Andrew would become legally vulnerable to the committee's jurisdiction. He specified, "However, if Andrew wishes to come to the United States, or he's here, then he's subject to the jurisdiction of the US Congress, and I would expect him to testify." This is a critical point of law. Should Andrew step foot onto American soil for any reason, whether for a personal visit, a business trip, or any travel whatsoever, he would instantly fall under the legal purview of the US legislative branch, making him susceptible to the subpoena's enforcement, and potentially facing severe legal repercussions for non-compliance. The message is clear. The only way to entirely avoid this legal risk is to remain outside US territory, a restriction that itself carries immense personal and reputational costs. The American attorney, in delivering his powerful message directly to Andrew through the media, issued a clear moral and legal ultimatum. Come clean. Come before the US Congress. Voluntarily testify. Don't wait for a subpoena. This appeal for voluntary testimony is framed not just as a legal strategy, but as a moral imperative. By testifying voluntarily, Andrew could potentially mitigate the appearance of guilt or obstruction that would inevitably accompany the enforcement of a compulsory subpoena. Representative Krishnamurthy further urged the former prince to seize this opportunity to salvage whatever remains of his public standing and image. He emphasized the higher purpose behind the request, stating, "Come and testify and tell us what you know. At the end of the day, we want to know exactly what happened, not just to give justice to the survivors, but to prevent this from ever happening again. This statement elevates the inquiry beyond the personal legal troubles of Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It positions the testimony as a vital component in a broader, systemic effort to understand the mechanisms of Epstein's trafficking ring, thereby helping to protect future potential victims. The US Congress is seeking not just retrospective justice, but crucial preventative knowledge. The calls for Andrew's cooperation were echoed by another significant figure within the House Oversight Committee. Congressman Suhas Subramaniam, speaking to BBC Radio 4 on a recent Saturday, reiterated the committee's unified position. He stated plainly, "I would like for him to come to our committee and tell us everything he knows about Jeffrey Epstein and the crimes that were committed." Congressman Subramaniam went on to articulate the dual reasons why Andrew should take this definitive step. He argued that appearing before the committee would serve both the public interest and the former Duke's own personal defense strategy. He explained that this action would be a constructive move toward repairing the damage done to Andrew's reputation, which has been severely tarnished by his association with Epstein. "I think this would be a great way for Andrew to clear his name," Subramaniam suggested, coupling this personal benefit with the overriding need for judicial progress. "It would be a great way for us to continue our pursuit of justice for the victims." This perspective suggests that US lawmakers believe Andrew holds key information that is absolutely essential to the ongoing investigation. The politician added a crucial detail that explains the committee's focus specifically on him. Andrew's name has come up many times from the victims, and so he clearly has knowledge of what happened, and we just want him to come forward and tell us what he knows. The fact that survivors have repeatedly mentioned Andrew's name is perhaps the most damning piece of information driving the congressional inquiry. It suggests that his involvement, or at least his presence and observation, was significant enough to be remembered and cited by those who suffered at the hands of Epstein and his associates. For the committee, this is a clear signal that Andrew's narrative is indispensable to piecing together the full picture of the criminal enterprise. The demands for testimony are not confined to the halls of the US Capitol. They resonate deeply within the legal community, representing the survivors of Epstein's horrific abuse. Spencer Kuvin, a prominent lawyer who represents a number of Epstein's victims, also publicly called for Andrew to step forward and testify under oath. His perspective focused not only on Andrew's own conduct, but on the vital role he could play in identifying others involved. "We need to hear his story and hear what he is saying about what occurred," Kuvin asserted, highlighting the necessity of understanding Andrew's version of events. But the lawyer broadened the scope of Andrew's potential contribution significantly, focusing on the identification of other culpable parties. But also he could testify about other potential co-conspirators that he saw that may have been present at the mansions here in the States that were doing inappropriate activities. This is a powerful revelation. The victim's counsel sees Andrew not just as a witness to his own actions, but as a key eyewitness to the broader network of individuals who participated in, or were aware of, the exploitation taking place at Epstein's various properties, including the infamous residences here in the United States. If Andrew possesses knowledge of these co-conspirators, his testimony could unlock further criminal prosecutions and bring a wider circle of wrongdoers to justice. Kuvin summarized the dual purpose of this urgent request for testimony, reinforcing why the US legal system is so focused on securing his cooperation. So on both fronts, both on behalf of other victims, but potentially on behalf of himself, we would like Andrew to come here and testify. The context surrounding these current demands is crucial to understanding the gravity of Andrew's position. It is essential to recall the resolution of the civil case brought against him by Virginia Giuffre. In 2022, Andrew, who was then still known as the Duke of York, reportedly reached a confidential financial settlement with Ms. Giuffre. This settlement involved the payment of millions of dollars to conclude her civil sexual assault case against him. It must be underscored that while this settlement brought the civil litigation to an end, Andrew has consistently and vehemently denied Ms. Giuffre's allegations. Crucially, as part of the settlement, Andrew has never been formally questioned under oath regarding the allegations or his association with Jeffrey Epstein. This absence of sworn testimony is precisely why the US Congressional Committee is now exerting such intense pressure. They seek the judicial certainty that only testimony under oath can provide. The actions taken by the British monarchy have also played a significant role in framing the public perception of Andrew's situation. Sky Roberts, who is Virginia Giuffre's brother, offered his strong approval of the decision made by King Charles III to strip Andrew of his formal military titles, his patronages, and the right to use the style His Royal Highness in any official capacity. Roberts lauded the king's decision, viewing it as a necessary step toward accountability. He did not mince words regarding what he believes should be the ultimate consequence for the former duke, reiterating the powerful sentiment that Andrew needs to be behind bars. This statement reflects the deep-seated desire among survivors and their families for criminal accountability, suggesting that financial settlements and title stripping, while significant, do not constitute full justice. The collective weight of these demands, from high-ranking US congressmen wielding the power of subpoena to victims' lawyers seeking co-conspirator information, and finally, the victims' own families demanding incarceration, creates an unprecedented level of international scrutiny on Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. For the US House Oversight Committee, this is not merely an attempt to corner a high-profile figure. It is a critical component of a legislative investigation into systemic failure and sex trafficking. They believe Andrew holds key pieces of the puzzle that could lead to new legislation, or, more immediately, aid law enforcement in identifying and prosecuting those who facilitated Epstein's monstrous operation. The repeated mention of Andrew's name by survivors is the engine driving this pursuit. The dilemma for Andrew is stark: remain safely on foreign soil, enduring the continuous accusations of evasion and obstruction, or travel to the United States, thereby submitting himself to the jurisdiction of Congress and potentially facing highly uncomfortable and legally dangerous questioning under oath. The latter option, while risky, is presented by the congressman as the only viable path left for him to credibly clear his name and demonstrate a commitment to justice for the survivors. The narrative of clearing his name is a powerful lure. The congressmen understand that Andrew is operating under the heavy burden of public suspicion. By voluntarily coming forward, he could attempt to reshape that narrative, presenting himself as a cooperative witness rather than a reluctant subject of investigation. However, the risk inherent in any testimony regarding his association with Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell is immense, given the history of the case and the details that have already emerged in the public sphere. This entire situation underscores the immense reach of American legal authority, even when dealing with individuals connected to the highest echelons of foreign power. The US Congress views the pursuit of justice for victims of trafficking as a moral and legal priority that supersedes traditional diplomatic courtesies or royal status. The threat of the subpoena, while difficult to enforce overseas, acts as a permanent, dangling sword, severely limiting Andrew's freedom of movement and ensuring the story remains prominent in the global spotlight. The fact that the committee is focusing on potential co-conspirators adds another layer of complexity. If Andrew testifies about others he saw engaging in inappropriate activities at Epstein's mansions, he would be providing critical evidence that could lead to criminal charges against individuals who have thus far avoided public scrutiny. This is the ultimate goal for Spencer Coven and the victims he represents: to dismantle the entire network that enabled Jeffrey Epstein. In conclusion, the demands facing Andrew Mountbatten Windsor are intensifying and have crossed the threshold from mere media speculation into formal, high-level congressional pressure. Representative Krishnamurthy's willingness to discuss a subpoena and Congressman Subramaniam's insistence on the necessity of his testimony for justice represent a united front from the U.S. legislative body. Whether Andrew chooses to heed the call to come clean and voluntarily testify remains the central question. His decision will not only define his future public life, but will undoubtedly have significant implications for the ongoing pursuit of justice for the numerous victims of Jeffrey Epstein. This is a story of profound global importance, weaving together themes of privilege, accountability, and the relentless quest for truth. What are your thoughts on this unprecedented pressure being applied by US Congress? Do you believe Andrew should travel to the United States to testify, or should he remain on foreign soil? Please share your opinions in the comment section below. We read every comment, and your input drives this discussion forward. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more in-depth coverage of these critical stories, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss our next update. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.